Welcome. I'm Lindsay Bridges from Charlotte Center for Mindfulness, and I'm glad to be practicing with you. I thought I would offer a sharing from a lovely book called Everyday Zen by Charlotte Joko Beck. Um, I appreciate this book because it's got small, short readings which are quite useful and helpful. So this one's called Running in Place, and I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs of what she says. I talk to many people, and I am saddened again and again that we don't see what our life is and what our practice is. We are confused about the basic core of practice, and we get sidetracked with all sorts of incorrect notions about it. The degree to which we're sidetracked or confused is the degree to which we suffer. Practice can be stated very simply. It is a moving from a life of hurting myself and others to a life of not hurting myself and others. That line, just the simplicity of that understanding of what this practice is, it is moving from a life of hurting myself and others to a life of not hurting myself and others. That's very, very useful in terms of orientating to, to this practice. So she goes on, that seems so simple, except when we substitute for real practice some idea that we should be different or better than we are, or that our lives should be different from the way they are. When we substitute our ideas about what should be, such as notions like I should not be angry or confused or unwilling, for our life as it truly is, then we're off base and our practice is barren. So she goes on to compare this kind of practice to wanting to know what it's like to be a marathon runner, wanting to know what it's like to run 26 miles. And instead of ever getting out to run, we might read about marathon runners. We might compile a vast literature of statistics about marathon runners. We might watch marathon runners on TV or in some way, but until we actually start running ourselves, we don't know anything about it. It takes that lived experience to understand it from the inside, which can never be obtained from reading or thinking or contemplating or getting obsessive about facts or whatever from the outside. So she says, we only know our lives when we experience them directly, instead of dreaming about how they might be if we did this or had that. The other thing she points out that's very useful, I think, to hear again and again and again, if we're used to living in that virtual reality in our heads, it can actually be even frightening to step out of that virtual reality, tasting this present moment right now. Very much harder than we give it credit for, which is why we practice. And so let's take a few minutes for us to give ourselves this opportunity to practice with moving from a life of hurting myself and others to a life of not hurting myself and others. We do that by allowing a lot of grace, courage, willingness, compassion, kindness, clear mind, strong heart to being with this present moment now. So I invite you to find whatever posture best supports your body. If it's useful for you, offering a few nice deep in and out breaths. Begin to open up to this moment just as it is, stepping out of that virtual reality of what we might want, how we want things to be, how we want ourselves to be, the thinking mind rushing headlong into this or that. What is it like to let those thoughts be as we sink underneath whatever's here in this moment now, to this body, noticing its contact with this chair, cushion, bench, wherever you're sitting. To hearing these sounds, breathing this breath. Let yourself feel into whatever kind of practice feels most supportive. Maybe at the moment it's accessible to simply sink into the present moment of breathing in and out. Maybe there is a lot going on in the virtual reality of the thinking mind, but you can feel a strong pull in some direction or another. So, no need to get in a fight with that in any way. The mind feels distracted, or there's some urge or wanting to go in a different direction. What is it like to allow space for that to be just as it is? Drop the awareness underneath any thought story and into how this plays out in the body in this moment now. Opening up to living, experiencing what's present in this moment without judgment, just as it is, and offering it all a breath. Practice can be stated very simply. It is moving from a life of hurting myself and others to a life of not hurting myself and others. It's the relevance of that phrase for you right now. Thank you. Lovely practicing with you today and sending you good wishes on your day.